So in this video, I'm going to be sharing about Lilith and the dark feminine. And she is one of a beautiful, deep, rich archetype that can help us connect with the dark feminine. We all have that energy within us, but often this energy has been deeply repressed and rejected because it's been rejected in the collective, in our world. So to kind of paint a picture, collectively, the dark feminine has been shut down for centuries because actually, patriarchy is scared of its self destructive energy, its ability to create new life through the shadows, through the unconscious. And there's this real, raw, wild nature to Lilith that, you know, most of us are actually scared of, or we haven't fully explored. So I hope this video is going to help to illuminate those shadowy parts for you so that you can make them more conscious and be more aware of them, right? Because that's where the power lies. Like Carl Jung said, something like, if we don't shine a light on the unconscious, it will continue to control our lives and we will call it fate. So this is why I love working with the shadows, because we all have shadows, we're all human, we're all light and dark. And actually, the more we can connect and make the shadows conscious, the more free and liberated we become. And actually, the brighter our light becomes because we're not denying these parts of us or squashing them down. We're actually accepting them and allowing us. And that's where the deep integration happens, and this is the work that I teach. So you may have heard of Lilith. She is the dark feminine, an aspect of the dark feminine, and there's so many stories, but one of them, sort of one of the metaphors of the stories is that she was originally in the garden of Adam and Eve, and she came before Eve, and she basically she said no to Adam because she would not lie beneath him. And so she was shunned and cast out from the garden because she would not submit. So right there is so much to unpack. And then she was seen as this she demon that then killed children and was a seductress. Again, I always feel these myths and these stories are really open to interpretation, and that's why I love to share them with you. And actually, she came back. There's another idea that she came back and was crowned with this serpent energy, and she was the one in the tree that actually influenced Eve to pick the apple from the tree. Again, take it. These are questions, these are themes to ponder. And, what I've realized is, if we to really reclaim our power and our real sovereignty as humans, as women, we need to be doing the shadow work. And Lilith invites us to look at those shadowy depths in us, the parts that we may feel it's actually quite edgy to look at that stuff. And, the themes of reclaiming our inner power, also, we have to look at where we've given our power away, and I'm guilty. We're only human. This is how we learn. And often we can seek external validation or power from outside of ourselves because we don't know how to be fully powerful in our own right, in ourselves. And this is what Lilith can teach us, because she actually said no. She was assertive. She said, no, I won't lie down. And actually, that is what the patriarchy and the world is deeply afraid of, is actually the woman that says, no, I won't do that. The woman that is so embodied in herself, in her wild, true nature, that she will say no, that she will question things, and she won't be submissive. She won't just go along with things and people please. And this is the aspect I want you to tap into as you're listening to this transmission, this video, is like, you know, you in your wild true essence. Who is that woman? Who is that part of you that is so free, so wild? She doesn't filter, she doesn't mask, she says the truth. And that is being authentic to me, right? And maybe you can think of a time in your life where you spoke the truth with such liberation. That is a glimpse of you in your power, right? And it's so interesting because in the last few days, there seems to be a theme of snakes. And I just clocked it as I was about to record this video, is on my vision board up here that I created in January. There's actually a snake on it. And I did it very intuitively in a workshop. And I just felt so drawn to the snake in this magazine. I had to put it in. I didn't know why. And now I feel like there's this archetype coming through, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm here to share this medicine, to teach the dark feminine. That's part of what I'm meant to do. And of course, it connects with Lilith, of that serpent energy. You know, the serpent energy also refers to sexuality and the creative power we have, the Kundalini energy, and it reminds me of that DNA spiral. You know, it looks like a spiral. We are constantly creating. We are creative beings. Whether you think you're creative or not, you are a creative being. If you came into this world, you are creative. And so Lilith, again, is an invitation to connect with that creative expression. Because when you're fully tapped into your wild, true nature, then those creative visions can flow through you effortlessly without you masking, without you doing the shoulds, right? For example, I sat down the other day, I was house sitting, dog sitting for the weekend, and I had space. I was just in the garden, I was just with myself, and it's like this energy just poured through me. It's like, right, you've got to do a retreat on the dark feminine. And that came through me because I was being open and receptive. And, you know, the dark feminine will invite us in to look at those shadows, and the shadows of where we give our power away, where we want to control others, where we want to manipulate them, maybe where we're not clear with our boundaries, but we're trying to get our needs and desires met from a place of unconscious manipulation, right? These are themes of that dark feminine. And you know, she is also known as the seductress. So you know, maybe as well you can see themes of where you've actually seduced people. That could be the opposite sex. It also could be attracting clients in a way that wasn't clear, in a way that came from some shadowy part of you that wasn't integrated. And by the way, these unconscious parts of us, you know, it takes time to heal and integrate them, but I'm just opening your psyche up by sharing these now, so it's going to work on a subconscious level, because when you start to just even hear that there's a part of you that might be manipulating and controlling, then it just brings it to the surface of your mind. So yeah, that is a little bit about the Lilith. And as well, the other archetype that has to come in with the dark feminine is Persephone, right? I love this myth, and I talk about it because it just has so much rich symbolism. And you know, the myth of Persephone is where Persephone gets abducted into the underworld by Hades, and she is literally seduced by him, and she then is tricked. So it's like manipulation again, to eat the food of the underworld, which is the pomegranate seeds, and she eats them, and she's then bound to the underworld for 6 months of the year and becomes Hades' wife. She's queen of the underworld, and there's so much rich symbolism of this theme of, like, you know, in our spiritual journey, I've done all the fluffy stuff. I'm done with the fluffy stuff. And that's often where we begin, right? It's not a judgment, it's just often that's where we might begin on that journey. And as you dive deeper and start unpacking these layers, there's a point where you get initiated. You know, you, from like that Persephone, she's initiated into literally seeing her shadows. You know, she is, I'd say there's a naivety here, there's an innocence that she's lost when she goes into that underworld. And so she has to see herself, to look at those shadows, look at those fears in the eye. But when you do that, they no longer have power over you. And that's where that renewal and rebirth journey happens from, that initiation, the seed of something challenging, whether that's a crisis point or a meltdown of some kind. That opens us up and it cracks us open. And you can probably relate. So as a tangible thing, you know, having a crisis point in your life, if you think back to that, or like a dark night of the soul where you felt like you were growing crazy and life was cracking you open in some way, to actually, I feel like those moments crack us open because they're wanting us to go deeper within ourselves, to see beyond the facades and the conditionings that we see ourselves through, right? We always have this lens of, it's almost like how the world has seen us and we see ourselves. So it's these moments of initiation crack us open, so we have an opportunity to see ourselves in a new light, to see that shadow, which at the moment, that moment could be really confronting, but it gives us a sense of renewal, like fertile ground to get deeper into who we really are, to get deeper into our soul's truth beneath all the stories and the bullshit conditionings that we have been told who we are. So it's an unraveling, and an unraveling as well can feel really unsteady. And I'll give you an example of this, like shared this before. But for example, when I moved to Australia, I had one of the most, it was like a catalyst of this path. And I always relate to it of being a dark night of the soul. I was literally felt like I'd been initiated. I got to Australia, I almost felt like the grass was greener, that was solving my problems. So there was a naivety there, like Persephone. And then I really was in this deep depression, isolation. I was with a partner at the time, but I felt so alone. I really was just lost. I felt like in this void space. So hopefully that's helping you connect with a moment in your life. Think back to when you felt these darker, heavy emotions. Could it be some sort of crisis? Could be a mental breakdown, anything like that. We're in this realm. And so I had no choice. I had to look at myself. I had to look within. I didn't have friends out there. That's why it was so challenging. And it was because I kept changing jobs. I had like 7 jobs within a year. So it was really teaching me surrender, that I couldn't hold on to things. It was teaching me that I can't control what's happening. And I was incredibly creative. I was just drawing and cooking like all the time. And then I got shin splints, which was super painful. So I literally couldn't walk. It was like the universe is going, here you are, here's the gold. Because within those shadows, within that unconscious, is the gold and the buried treasure. If you stick with that process and you surrender to it and you see, okay, I'm seeing my wounds here, I'm feeling really confronted, but what is the medicine? What is the medicine in that wound? And I know it's hard to see it when you're in it, but you can think back to a time in your life that was incredibly potent and transformational. It was probably because you were plunged or cracked wide open in some way. And it allowed you to shed those old layers, just like a snake does, right? A snake knows it's time to rebirth and move on. And often as humans, we tend to grip, we love to grip and hold on because change is terrifying and the uncertainty feels really unstable. But what these dark feminine energies teach us is that we are cyclical in nature. Everything is moving, everything is growing. It's like your fingernails are always growing. It's an intelligence that happens. You don't think, oh, my nail, well, you don't watch it, it just happens. And so when we are cyclical and connected to this wild nature, then life can move through us. And when we allow that to happen, we reclaim our inner power. We stop seeking, we stop looking outside of ourselves for our power, and we come back to our truth, to ourselves. And these energies are deeply mystical. Like if you're embodying these energies, you're in your mystic, you are the medicine woman. You are, the oracle, the one that knows, who deeply senses everything and knows what is exactly right for you and what is not. And these energies can help you with boundaries as well, and expressing your anger, because I often find they're connected. If a boundary's been crossed and you get angry, there's something there to look at that needs healing, or something needs to shift. So we're in the realm of that boundaries, self-expression, and that sensuality, that sensual energy. So yeah, these are themes, and I hope this was helpful to illuminate something in your own life. If you feel brave enough, please share below, like, what is that dark night of the soul or that crisis point that you had in your life that actually helped you to tap into your inner power more? Because the body, the body wisdom, our body wisdom is strong when we're connected to our intuition, to this sense of sovereignty. And that comes when we're deeply rooted in our body, in our feminine essence, in our lower chakras. It doesn't come from up here. It doesn't come from thinking. It comes from feeling and knowing our own rhythms. So I hope that was like an inspiring transmission to get you juiced up and get you connecting with these aspects of you. And I would love to hear your insights in the comments below. Do share.